Possibility Show. These are dialogues of encouragement with fresh perspectives, invitations to ahas, a little bit of science, a dash of behavioral psychology, and a whole lot of creative fun. So if leveling up is on your radar, my friend, you are at the right show. I'm your host, Roseanne Marsh, author of Teen and Parent Empowerment Curriculum Level Up, and you're listening to episode number 29, Worry Wart Training Wheels. Okay, I'm calling all worry warts. While you may be on the right track, are there benefits from worrying? Or is that an emotional faucet that we really need to turn off to survive? So in today's episode, we're going to be addressing two types of worries. And then we're going to give five training wheel tips to keep our worry upright and in control. Have you ever had your teen say to you, what's the big deal if I don't make curfew? And you respond, well, honey, it's because I'll worry. I'll worry about whether you're safe, whether you're in a ditch, whether something's happened to you. And they're like, whoa, wait a minute. You're going to worry about something that hasn't even happened? Well, they haven't been a parent yet, right? And as irrational as that thought might be, to worry about something that hasn't happened, we push ourselves to a cortisol overload, imagining the worst case scenario instead of experiencing peace and calm because our child came home from curfew at night. But we won't even go there, the parameters that need to happen. And after all, we do need to be able to go to bed at night, right? But is worrying optional? Is it really an emotion that we need to have? And who voted that in as an emotion? I want to know. Well, we know that in some people's view, happy is on the other side of worry, right? Well, they did write a song about it. Don't worry, be happy. All right, you can probably hear that in your, now it's going to be in your mind all day long, I know, but I think I played that song at least 1,000 times when it first came out. And it's still on my playlist. But is worry all that bad? Well, it turns out that science tells us that there is a psychological reason for worry. And while it may not be the pleasant place for us to go, it serves a purpose, not only from a point of preservation, but from a point of clarification. So if you are a so-called worry wart, we're going to validate some of your reasons for feeling this way. And we're also going to play a couple games, worry games, or should I say some training wheel tips that can dial down those worries and bring some peace of mind, or at least a fun diversion. So if you're listening to this episode today, we're going to level up our capacity to understand the science behind worry. Now, how to harness its purpose and engage one of your superpowers if you're willing to play along a little bit. And we're going to put some spit polish on those old worry warts. Can we start out by at least addressing what worry is? And I'm going to be honest, I love looking up the etymology of root words meaning. And when I looked up worry, I was a little bit shocked. The Old English, it was wyrin, and it meant to slay, to kill, to injure by biting and shaking the throat, you know, like a dog or a wolf would do. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's a visual. That's the root of the word worry. And then it went into a German Dutch translation of it, and that meant to strangle. So, okay, finally the English came up with a version that was to cause mental distress or trouble. Okay, I can wrap myself around that. So worry started out being a stranglehold on people in meaning and sense, and then came to a worry or a trouble. But literally, it can be a stranglehold on us if it's chronic, if we allow worry to overtake our life. Worry is that mental game we play when we start to think of the negative side of something that can go wrong. And it's those thought loops that start happening. It's the imaginings that keep happening on why aren't things going right, or they probably will go wrong. And we go through all those possible scenarios. Anxiety, on the other hand, is when we worry enough that now the body gets tuned into the fact that there's anxiousness. And so that's when physical symptoms and signs show up. That's anxiety. Worries in the mind, and anxiety is when it engages the body. And we can have lots of different things happen. Some of those signs might be we become restless and tense. Could be we have this sense of impending doom or panic or doom. We have increased heart rate because of that. We could have breathing that's really rapid. We can have physical sweating or trembling. We could feel tired or weak. We have trouble concentrating in our mind or even thinking. We have trouble sleeping. And we can even have gastrointestinal problems. So when the body gets involved, so when it's a physical manifestation of a mental issue, then that's when we've stepped into the realm of anxiety. And if you're listening to any of my other shows, you know that we talk about when the mind and the heart and the body combine, it's harder to change things, especially if it's habitual. There are those levels of anxiety and control that really would benefit from a professional and some medication. So I'm not saying that what I'm proposing would circumvent what you've got going if you truly need some help. But what I am saying is that here's good news. Whatever your level of worrying is, whatever your level of anxiety, these training wheel tips are going to be beneficial. So temporary worry is not a bad thing, right? Because it's the brain's amygdala that is in the fear center that's engaging, is helping us to start to look at something that we need to pay attention to. A lot of times the things we worry about are touching on things from our past. And if you go back on past episodes, you'll learn a little bit more about that. But in this show, we really want to talk about what you already possess that can help you from spiraling into a state of that physical manifestation of anxiety. And if you do suffer from anxiety, what are some skills that you can use that can help you manage it much better? So what do you worry about? What did we worry about in elementary school? I think one of the biggest things was, who are we going to play with at recess? Will they pick me for a team? Will I be left out? Will I miss the bus? And of course, in 5th grade class, my teacher was a botanist and had tanks of snakes. Oh, yes, that's right, snakes. So I was always worried that they were going to escape, and with good reason, because we would come in from recess and say, oh, by the way, Flo and Jerry have escaped from their tank. So would you look in your desk to see if they're there? Okay, let's be real. That wasn't worry. That was out and out fear. Now that I look back on it, I was in a state of anxiety my entire 5th grade. You know, do you have things from your past that put you into that state of PTSD and anxiety? And then junior high was totally different because we worried about fitting in and being a part of a group of friends. Am I wearing the right clothes? Are they going to make a shower every day for PE? The dreaded group shower. Okay, can you believe we even went through that? Please tell me that they've changed things. And then with Level Up, we polled the teens of today and asked what they were worried about. And they were worried about failing their classes. They were worried about friends that would turn on them. They were worried about their parents. Would they take their cell phone away? Or maybe would their family fall apart? They were worried if they would lose their job. They're worried if they wouldn't have the freedom that they have right now. They worried if their parents would find out what they were up to. Ooh. And then off to college and trade school, those worries are a lot different, aren't they? It's, are we going to make rent? It's about, or worries about the job. Does it pay enough for school and rent? And yes, that all important food and gas fuel. Worried about exams, the social scene, and how to have time to fit it all in. Now, as parents and adults, think about what your worries are. Are they health? Are they health of parents or family members? Are they bills? Are there jobs, promotions, lack of job? Is it a boss that's difficult, transferring somewhere? Is it a child that's struggling? Is it a teen that's out late? Is it teens that are driving? And the list can go on and on and on with all the concerns that apply with the individual lives. Yet the brain and the mind can find something to worry about. And here's the deal. 99% of the things we worry about never happen. They never happen. And worry is a terrible use of imagination. Yep, worry is about stuff that hasn't happened yet. Some might happen, and some of it will never happen. And some is not going to be within our controls, and some will be within our control. But how do we use our imagination for a greater purpose? We can imagine all sorts of dreadful endings to something that hasn't even happened yet. So worry is a terrible use of imagination. And the mind is focusing on what can go wrong. It is a dreaded what if. And there's nothing wrong with a what if, because it puts our mind in a position of analysis. Now, the downside is that worry from the amygdala needs some prompting to be able to look at things from all sides. Our amygdala needs worry wart training wheels to help it lean to the other perspective. So first of all, the first question I would ask when we're talking about worries is my worry solvable? Solvable worries are those that you can take action on right away. For example, if you're worried about your bills, you could call your creditors to see how flexible they would be about taking optional payment plans. Unsolvable worries are those that you can't take action on. Those would be things like, what if I get hit by a car? What if the plane I'm riding in goes down, falls out of the sky? Or what if my teen gets in a car accident? So the first action plan is to determine whether our worry is solvable or not solvable. And if it's solvable, then we start brainstorming. We can make a list of possible solutions that we can think of, and think of the things that we have power or control over. And try not to get hung up on the perfect solution, but just brainstorm a bunch of things. And then when you're done, make an action plan. Once you have a plan written and start actually doing something, the brain records that action as taking the anxiety level down a notch or two. And it's not looked at as such a problem. Our brain, our mind, our subconscious dislikes uncertainty. It's just like with fear, when we shine a light on it, when with our fear and find solutions, it no longer becomes a fear. So just like this, worry, when it's solvable, when we start to brainstorm and come up with something, our brains calm down and our body psychologically calms down. If the worry is not solvable, then we just have to accept that something is going to be uncertain in our life. Now, this is where the brain goes into worry, because are you ready for a little science piece? Our brain tries to predict the future. It tries to think of all the unpleasant things that could possibly happen, all the outcomes that could happen. And that way, it's preparing us for the hard things that might or might not come. The brain is hoping to predict the future to be able to control the outcome. The problem is it doesn't work. The problem is it's thinking that all the things that can go wrong doesn't make life more predictable. It just makes life more miserable for us, right? Focusing on the worst case scenario will only keep you from enjoying the good things that are happening in the present and right now. So if your worry is solvable, get brainstorming, get an action plan and take action. But for those worries that are not solvable, here's some training wheel skills for all you worry warts and you nervous Nellies out there. Then this, and that would include me. So here is worry wart training wheel number one. So number one, we are going to play the worry in your mind as a movie. That's right. I said you have what you need, or you use your imagination. You're going to grab some popcorn if you want, but it's as if you were playing the movie in your mind. And you're going to sit there and watch the movie. Now, you're not going to change the movie. Just let it play out in your mind. And try not even to rewrite the script. You're just going to watch that movie in your mind and start to see the different perspectives that may or may not come out of this, and let it play out. When a worry is stuck in the head and doesn't have a release valve, it starts to become like this bigger monster than it needs to be. But when we can see the worry from a different perspective, sometimes it gets gets us used to what that worry could feel like if it were to come true. And it starts to help us see how unrealistic it may be if it never does come true. So playing that mind movie in your mind can give it perspective. When we enlist our imagination, we can use it to catastrophize or to analyze or to play back for us something that now we can see maybe is silly and unrealistic. That was number one, that little mind movie. Worry wart training wheel number two, we're going to use the if-then approach to analyzing our worry. But we're going to take it from an extreme so that we're stretching our brain's ability to accept things from lots of different directions. So here's an example. If-then. If I don't get that new job, then I'll be stuck in that job. If I'm stuck in that job, then I'll look for a new job. If I can't find another job, then I'll be miserable. Well, if I'm miserable, then I'll need to find something to make me feel less miserable. So if I want to be less miserable, then I need to find something new to expose myself to. If I need to find something new to expose myself to, then maybe I'll take an online course at night. And if I take an online course at night, then maybe I'll have more skills to find a new job. So do you get it? So the if-then, it starts opening up the brain to start thinking of different angles. So if you don't get the job, you're like, oh, no sweat. I'm going to take an online course. Do you see what I'm saying? So here's another one. This is an extreme from a mom that was worried that her son was going to be arrested and go to jail. So if my son gets arrested, then he will go to jail. So if he goes to jail, then I will visit him. And then he goes to jail, then he's going to lose his job. Well, if he loses his job, then when he gets out, he'll find a new job. And if he finds a new job, then maybe he'll learn some different skills. If he learns new skills, then he'll know more than he knows right now. Then if he learns more than he knows right now, then he'll feel better about himself. The if-then training wheel. It's powerful. So you can see how we can use the brain to feel the if-then. We're giving the brain homework. Instead of staying in the ditch, we can drive it out of the ditch and give something different to think about. This is big. We can take our worry and take it to some different places, some possibilities to keep us from going into that downhill spiral. Okay, this next one, training wheel for worry warts, number 3. This I learned from Mel Roberts, and this is play what if game. Now, the what if is that dreaded thing about what if this happens, what if that happens? But here are 6 words that you can say to your brain to stop it from that worry cycle. So think of what your what if statement is. You know, what if we get in a car wreck? What if I don't get that? What if I'm not able to pay my mortgage? Blah, blah, blah. So think of what your what if statement is. Go ahead and think of it. And then I want you to add these 6 words. What if everything turns out okay? What if everything turns out okay? What if I lose my job? But what if everything turns out okay? What if I lose my boyfriend? What if everything turns out okay? What if the tumor ends up being cancerous? But what if everything turns out okay? And sometimes I think it's great if we think of things from a year down the road. We don't know the time frame on surviving through hard things. But when we have the mindset that whatever happens, what if everything turns out okay? It may take some time, but sometimes backing off of something, though I'm not going to put a time frame on this, but what if everything turns out okay? Very cool, right? Okay, training wheel for worry warts number 4. Sometimes we just have to train our brain when it's allowed to worry. Years ago, as a supervisor, I used to jokingly say to managers when they call to complain, I'd say, oh, today's Thursday. I only take complaints on Wednesdays. Okay, what was I doing? I was actually doing a pattern interrupter to make them laugh. And of course, I'd take their complaints. But seriously, When we tell our brain when is the appropriate time to worry, it's amazing. We can actually put things off a little bit. Obviously, we'll make a list of, okay, I'm worried about this. I'm worried about, if you have a place to write it down, and then you say, okay, I only worry from noon to 12:30. That little half hour bit of time, that's when I address those worries. And at that point, you can look at your worries and go, okay, is it solvable, unsolvable, and use some of these other tips. But we have to be the masters of our mind. We have to decide if worry starts to psychologically control our bodies or our health, our emotions, and our ability to function. So this is Worry Wart training wheel number 5. Sing a song, sing a happy song. This is such an easy slam dunk to worry because it changes your breathing. I know, you're probably thinking, okay, she's going to do another 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are so many different ways that we can help worry. And yes, changing your breath can help you change your emotions. And we're going to have a whole thing on breath work coming up with an expert. And our curriculum here is full of breath work. If you don't know breath work, I suggest you get involved with it. But singing, this is your slam dunk. It's your slam dunk because it changes the breath. And of course, when it changes the breath, it changes your emotional state. So it changes your breath, it signals to the body to calm down. It changes your focus. And then if you're singing about something funny, well, that's even better. So what's your anti-worry song? So let's look at the 5 different things in. Let's just kind of, so number 1 is play that mind movie. Just do a little mind movie and play out that worry and just kind of look at it and see it for what it is. The second one is the if then. If this happens, then that. If then. The third one is using the what if. What if everything turns out okay? The fourth one is train your brain when it can worry. Write things down, compartmentalize, so you can go on with the day and go, okay, it's going to be addressed. And your brain knows it's going to be addressed then. And number 5 was sing. Have your anti-worry sing song. There's a story of 2 monks. There was an elderly monk and a younger one, and they were walking along a country road. Now there was a river that had overflooded, and the road was traversed by a stream of muddy water. Now there was a young woman that was stood on the one side of that river where they were and was trying desperately to figure out how to get to the other side of that little river. And the elderly monk approached the young woman and asked if he could help. He picked her up, he walked through the muddy water and sat her down on the other side or the other bank. Now the younger monk, he followed across the water, and then the 2 monks continued on their way. When they got back to the monastery, that evening, the younger monk came to the elder one and he said, I don't understand. We are not allowed to touch women, but yet you picked up that young woman and you carried her across the water. The elder monk smiled at him and told him, yes, but I left her on the other side of the road, but you are still carrying her. What does it take for us to put down our worry and be able to put our minds in training wheels? Our brains are equipped to help us worry and help us go down rabbit holes, and our imagination can create monsters out of molehills. But by using our brain, our mind, the training wheels to decide how and what we will worry about, we can stay more present in life. We can retain more joy. We can deal with life better emotionally. And we can go through tough things. And we can weather really tough things. Battles won or lost in the line. There are times when we can be the saboteur, but we can also be the creator of strength, resilience, and psychological hardness. Singing is an amazing way to disperse worry. Don't worry, be happy. Thank you for tuning in this week. What are your ways that you disperse your worry? all you worry warts out there, happy training wheels. See you next week.